Given that he was able to,
I'll sustain as to hearsay. It is hearsay.
Okay.
All right.
so you determined, Mr. Whigham, that by the fall of 2018, it was very likely that Mr. Depp was not going to be in Pirates 6. Is that correct?
It's a two-pronged answer from my perspective, because there was really two individuals involved in that decision. I would say Jerry Bruckheimer and Sean Bailey. Jerry Bruckheimer in the fall of 2018 really wanted Johnny in that next film, and Sean was non-committal, as you said.
And Mr. Bruckheimer made it clear to you that Mr. Bailey was the one who gets to decide because he's Disney, right?
Ultimately, and he also wanted to be the tip of the spear to really try to convince Sean.
Okay. Now, do you recall?
Thank you.
Do you recall having your deposition taken on January 20, 2021? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, with you.
Okay. Can you pull that up, Michelle, please? Thank you. I'm going to ask you to turn to page 44. And Mr. Whigham, you were under oath at the time of this deposition, correct? Correct?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Line 10. This is page 44, line 10. The question, do you recall approximately when in 2018 you inferred from your discussion with Mr. Bailey that the likelihood of Mr. Depp being in Pirates 6 was not high or was going away? And your answer at that time was, if memory serves me, the latter part of 2018 maybe. Question, when you say latter, is that any time from August to December, or what are you thinking? Answer, I would say fall, maybe, October, November, December, in that area. Do you recall giving that testimony under oath at that time?
I do, now that I see it, yes.
Okay. And in fact, there were quite a few things going on earlier in 2018 that might have had a bit of an impact on Mr. Depp's reputation. Would you agree?
It might help if you
refresh your recollection. Sure. And before I go there, though, I think you said that the reason it was so catastrophic for Mr. Depp for the op-ed was because it was a first-person account of Johnny, right? Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Wasn't it a first-person account when Ms. Heard filed for the TRO in 2016?
So that would have predated any relationship I had to Johnny, so I had no knowledge of that.
Okay, so you don't know whether it was catastrophic then?
If you're asking me my opinion on something I don't know, I can form an opinion right now. It's a court document and probably a little different than an op-ed in the Washington Post. But I would agree it's not now that I'm forming an opinion, that it's not a great headline for sure.
When you read the op-ed, did you read it online or did you read it in the actual Post paper?
I don't remember.
Well, let's pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 2. Does this refresh your recollection?
Very hard for me to see it. Is that just the paper?
We're going to try to scroll in a little bit more.
Again, just if you can help me. Is that the paper? Is
Yes.
that the article?
Yes, that's the Washington Post.
So, what's the question? Sorry.
Does this help refresh your recollection of whether you saw it in print or whether you saw it online?
It does not, but I'll tell you that I did not typically pick up the Washington Post,
Okay, and so while we're sitting, if you can, just for a second, you're saying that then 2 years ago I became, oops, I better not do that. Let's clear that one. Then 2 years ago I became a public figure representing domestic abuse. That's this first person from Ms. Heard that's catastrophic for Mr. Depp. Is that your testimony?
My testimony is that it reads like a victim statement from someone involved and the recipient, and it became a bit of a death nail, catastrophic thing for Mr. Depp in the Hollywood community.
All right, well, let's pull up Defendant's Exhibit 99. Now, there was, in fact, an article published in the Sun newspaper by Dan Wooten, the editor-in-chief, on April 27, 2018. Do you recall that?
Now that I'm looking at it.
Does that refreshes your recollection? And in fact,
Yes.
This article calls Mr. Depp a wife beater, does it not?
Objection, hearsay.
I'll allow it for the.
I can't see the print even with these glasses, but
All right. Well,
I'll take your word for it.
Well, the title here is How Can JK Rowling Be Genuinely Happy Casting Wife Beater Johnny Depp in the new Fantastic Beasts film?
Objection,
Do you see
hearsay, Your
that?
Honor.
I'll allow that.
Yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to move the admission of this exhibit. I think at this point, it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, but it's going to he's testified to comparisons of other articles. He's testifying to the impact of the op-ed. I think it's, in fairness, we should be able to put this in and be able to make the comparisons.
It's clearly hearsay, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll sustain the
It's
objection.
not offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, Your
I'll
Honor.
sustain the objection.
Okay. Well, let's go to the third page. Now, let's go to the fourth page. So it has A5, I think is what I'm trying to get to. So it says paragraph 7. So do you recall that it says in here,
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
She's just trying to backdoor your ruling.
Mr. Whigham, the article also had pictures, did it not?
I don't recall.
Do you recall whether it had a picture of Ms. Heard?
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
I'll allow that.
I don't recall.
Can we go to the 8th page? I'm showing you the picture right now. Does that refresh your recollection?
Your Honor, hearsay, lack of foundation.
I'll allow it.
It doesn't speak to my impression of when I read it or how I read it, but I see the photo. Yes, ma'am.
All right, and in fact, it shows bruises on it, doesn't it? On Ms. Heard's face?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Overruled.
That would be what I see, yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Depp filed a lawsuit against the Sun newspaper and against Dan Wooten for this article, correct?
I believe so.
June 13, 2018. Let's pull up 1599, defendants 1599. Does this refresh your recollection?
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Just for refreshing recollection, I'll allow.
Just so I understand the question, you're asking, does it refresh a memory that Johnny filed suit against the Sun?
Yes, and Dan Wooten. On June 13, 2018.
Sure.
Okay.
Now that I'm looking at it, yeah.
All right. And he did so in the UK, in the High Court of Justice, correct?
I believe so. You would know better than I.
Okay. And if we can just turn to page 9. And do you recall that Mr. Depp alleged that that article had caused him serious harm to his personal and professional reputation?
Objection, hearsay, calls for speculation.
I'll allow the question.
Thank you.
No, I don't recall.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at paragraph 11. And let me see if I
I
can
need
get
new glasses.
Okay.
Sorry. I can barely.
I'm gonna-
I wish, Your Honor, is there a way to even make that screen bigger on mine? I wish I had better glasses and more technologically savvy.
They can make it a little bigger, but I think that's about as far as it can go.
I'm going to try to highlight it here so that that might help you a little bit. Let me switch the color. So, do you recall that Mr. Depp alleged that the article in the Sun newspaper by Dan Wooten had caused serious harm to the claimant's personal and professional reputation?
If you're asking me, I don't recall it. I was not involved in that case at all. I'm able to read what's in front of me.
But you don't recall it, and you don't recall if that had any impact on Disney in 2018.
Objection, asked and answered.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
All right. Do you recall that Mr. Depp also alleged that he was caused significant distress and embarrassment by the publication of that article?
No, I don't recall that.
Okay.
I say that because I just was not involved in that case.
All right.
My memory of that was it was a tabloid, and the lawyers were in.
All right. Michelle, you can take that down. Thank you. Now, there was a trial in the UK, was there not, on Mr. Depp's claims of libel against Dan Wooten and the Sun?
I believe so.
And it was in July of 2020, was it not?
I don't remember the date, actually.
All right. And it lasted 3 weeks? Do you recall that?
I don't, but I'll take your word for it.
Do you recall there being an enormous amount of publicity surrounding that trial?
Objection, calls for speculation, lack of foundation.
He said he did. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Whigham, you said you did recall that?
Asked and answered.
I'll allow it.
I remember there being press around it, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in fact, do you recall that Mr. Depp gave testimony for 4 days?
Not specifically. I don't.
Do you recall that Ms. Heard gave testimony for 4 days?
I don't recall any specific memory of who testified, for how long, or any details within the case.
Do you recall there being many, many witnesses testifying at that case, on that case?
I think I'd revert to my answer just now.
Okay. And the press that surrounded that case, do you recall it being focusing on things like Mr. Depp's drug and alcohol use?
Same answer.
Do you recall there being the video, the kitchen video, being shown repeatedly?
Objection. Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
I think my last question was, do you recall there being a lot of publicity surrounding Mr. Depp's alcohol and drug use?
I think I answered that.
Oh, that right. That's right. I was on the
don't
video,
recall.
the kitchen video. Do you recall there being the kitchen video being played pretty repeatedly in the press?
No, I don't.
Do you recall a lot of pictures of Ms. Heard reflecting bruises, cuts, injuries?
I think, just to be clear, I don't recall anything that was going on within the case. I was always consumed with next film and TV opportunities, and that was being handled by the lawyers.
Do
That's
you?
my memory.
Do you recall, I just have a couple more to ask you on this, do you recall there being allegations of at least 14 incidents of domestic violence against Ms. Heard in that trial?
I do not, with specificity. Same answer.
Now, could we bring up exhibit number 1 again, plaintiffs? Now, Mr. Whigham, do you know who wrote Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath, this has to change?
You're talking about the title?
Yes.
I wouldn't say that to me, I would have assumed it was Ms. Heard.
You assumed, but you don't know, do you?
I do not.
Okay. And were you aware that there were also 3 pleaded incidents of sexual violence in the UK trial against Ms. Heard by Mr. Depp?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, your testimony is, you can take that down now, thank you. Your testimony is that since some point in 2020, Mr. Depp has not had any more movie opportunities, is that correct?
Sorry, repeat the date.
When is the last time Mr. Depp had a movie opportunity?
The last film that he shot was Minamata, to the best of my memory.
All right. And in fact, do you know whether the article that was in the UK, the ensuing lawsuit that was brought by Mr. Depp, and the ensuing trial and all the publicity, do you know whether that had any impact on Mr. Depp's career?
Objection compound.
All right, I'll sustain the objection.
Do you know whether the collection of all of those items I just listed had an impact on Mr. Depp's career?
Remind me of the dates that you're asking about.
So the answer, I take it, is no, you don't know, correct?
I'm just trying to make sure I give you a correct answer so I understand the question. You referenced after 2020.
Okay,
Is that what you're saying?
the article was April of 2018. The lawsuit was June of 2018. The trial was July of 2020. What opportunities has Mr. Depp had since July 2020?
Since July 2020, he has not done a film.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, redirect.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Whigham.